welcome to Some Good Tea, where we drink some tea and we share some tea. I'm your host, Katie, and I'm back with Hannah.
I'm back!
I feel like you've done that every single time.
Have I really?
I don't remember. I've done
funny.
too many of these at this point.
Well, I hope people are still enchanted by it.
I mean, you're pretty enchanting.
Thank you.
You're pretty enchanting. We got some enchanting tea. We've got an enchanting topic. It's an enchanting evening.
I love it.
We didn't have any pasta, but it's okay. The tea that we're enjoying is called Conjure Woodland Beings by Jasmine Dragon Dehydrated Potions. We've had a couple of theirs on here before, and I have more to have. Like, they have some really great teas.
This tea is certainly
this was
delicious.
Very unique.
Yeah, I was gonna say I didn't expect it, but it is. It's really good.
It's difficult to describe. So it's a nut-based tea. So for those of you who have nut allergies, I'm sorry. This is one you'd miss out on. But for those of you who don't, highly recommend this tea.
It's really good.
It's remarkable. I've never had a tea like this before. It smells like almost like an almond cookie.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. I also really appreciate the pinky color.
Yeah, it's nuts, cute. Right? But then it becomes this lovely little peach-colored little cup. It's so like great.
It. It's so warm. It's cozy.
Perfect tea for like kind of a blustery day. I've been having a lot of those when I've been recording, so
it's a great time to record.
It is.
You can't go outside.
You can't go outside, so let's have some tea. As per usual, we're going to be getting questions for each other by rolling our 20-sided dice. And the topic that I've chosen for you, Hannah, is all about creative art projects.
This is so... Listen... I didn't know what this was going to be when I came on the line today, but I do want to say that I did speak with one of my colleagues at work today and let them know that I just live waiting for people to ask me about yarn and creative projects. Oh my gosh. So I've never been more prepared.
I'm so excited. Well, because I knew you're very artistically talented.
Thank you.
You do all kinds of fun things.
Thank
work with
you.
lots of different mediums. I've dabbled and played. I'm nowhere near your level, but I was like, this would be such a fun topic.
This is the kind of... I feel so flattered right now.
Oh, shucks.
Shameless plug for myself. You can follow me and my art adventures on Instagram at H. Lofgreen Studios.
Do it, guys. She's got some really cool stuff.
I have fun.
These are really fun projects.
I enjoy creating, for sure.
Would you like to roll the dice?
I would love
Let's
to.
see what
I'm
get.
so excited. Slay. Okay. 14.
Ooh. What advice would you give for someone who's trying to get into the creative arts field? What would you tell them?
You know what? I've actually been thinking about this a lot because there's a lot of art projects that I want to do this year and things I've never done before. And I keep coming across this phrase this year. Seriously, since January January 1st.
Yeah.
Since that date, I've seen this phrase about 10 times. And it's just, you never know what you're doing until you start doing it. So if there is something that you want to pick up, just do it. And maybe the first one's going to be really messy. Ooh. Maybe the second one's going to be a little bit less messy. Maybe the third's going to be way worse. Who knows? But you never know what you're doing until you're doing it. And that, I think that really just applies for all areas of life. Just do it.
I love that. Oh my gosh. I hadn't heard that, and I really like it.
I love it.
Because, I feel like with our generation, there's a lot of dark humor that I just love. Yeah. And, I literally have a t-shirt right now that says, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yes, I love that.
And it has a little dinosaur on it, and it's cute, and I love, because dinosaurs. But it's also just, so dark and so funny because it's no, I'm an adult with a very adult job. I still feel like I don't know what I'm doing.
Yes.
Right? But I love that because it takes that and flips it right on its head, and it's so what?
Yeah, so what? Yeah.
So what?
Nobody knows what they're doing.
Like, maybe you've never sculpted before. Like,
yeah.
You'll never have sculpted if you never pick up some clay and some tools and go for it.
Exactly.
Right? Like,
exactly.
Ooh.
I'm so glad you asked that.
The dice. It was the
You're
dice.
You're right. The dice is magical. But seriously, there's no better way to learn than just diving in head first and feeling maybe a little underprepared and doing it anyway. It will open your world up to possibilities you never even considered. Oof. It's 100% worth it.
That's such sound advice.
I'm living by it. Always.
Well, because, like, imposter syndrome is such a thing. Like, we get so used to just feeling like, I don't know what I'm doing, and isn't that just terrible?
Yeah.
Isn't that just the worst? But, like, so what?
So what?
Like, try it. Try it. Try the sculpting. Try the painting. Learn how to crochet. Like, sew. Put together a collage.
Yeah.
Go for that new job.
Exactly. Yes.
Try working out. Like, try the thing you haven't tried.
Out. Yes. Oh my goodness. And just speaking of, there's.
It applies to so many areas, and I knew this was going to be a good topic for you, but, like, dang, Hannah, way to just, like, blow it out of the park.
I'm trying not to give, like, too much away right now, because I feel like I could probably go off for 4 hours just about that one little topic. But I'm sure more of it will come up as we have more questions.
For sure. Well, let me roll that.
I'm so excited. Oh! This is the best topic you could have chosen.
Aw, shucks. Wow, look at us. That's a 4.
4.
What inspires you to make the thing, quote unquote? Where do you get your ideas? I dabble in a lot of different, like, the things of making, like, the things, right? And so I guess it kind of depends on what is the project or the thing that I'm working on, right? I enjoy cosplay. So obviously the thing that inspires me to cosplay is, like, a character or a story that I like. I was just going to
say, good stories are so inspiring.
Good stories are extremely inspiring. And I don't, like, draw and paint as much as I used to.
So hard to find the time.
I know.
Yeah,
but I do love it so much. But I think about, like, what would inspire me to do, like, a scene or that type of thing. It was usually, like, some story, something I'd watched, something I'd read, something I'd seen or experienced out in the world that I then wanted to incorporate into my own creation. I'm trying to think, like, what else? Same thing with, like I've played around with sculpting. And it usually comes from, like, something that I've experienced, somebody else's work that inspired me, sometimes even, like, a song or something.
People are so inspiring.
They are.
And people's stories and their desires and their fantasies are so inspiring. It's amazing. I love it so much.
Yeah.
I love it.
This isn't, I guess this topic isn't strictly about, like, writing, but I enjoy writing very much.
Writing's fun.
And I kind of, in my brain, they're two separate things, like the written word versus, like, creative physical stuff.
Sure.
Is, like, two separate things for me, but it's essentially, like, creativity, using your imagination, creating something that wasn't there before. And there's, like, so much that inspires me to, like, write. Like, other people's works, movies, video games, conversations with people, weird dreams that I've had have definitely inspired different stories.
Oh, dreams are so inspiring.
I've been on vacations where I'll just be like, you know, hiking somewhere and enjoying the view and, like, just be like, I need to take this and create it into this thing that I'm working on, this writing that I'm doing.
Oh, yes.
So, I feel like if you're strapped for inspiration, get out there, see stuff, experience stuff. Yeah. If you're, like, creatively stuck, like, go experience other things other people have created. Go experience nature. Like, get out there and breathe for a little bit, and lightning will strike.
So true.
Yeah.
It's so true. So true. I totally agree.
Aww. Do you want to roll the dice again?
Yes, I do.
I feel like that's your favorite part.
I do love rolling the dice. You know, it's like I feel like I'm choosing my fate. Okay. 10.
We're just hanging out in the middle.
We really are.
I think I know the answer to this question for you, but did you ever take lessons? Did you go to school to perfect your art, or is this something that you just picked up?
Oh my god. Well, I could talk about this for 6 hours too.
Yay!
So for me, I do several mediums. I do pen drawings, I paint. I also love writing. Mostly I just do journal writing. I've took up crochet last year and have...
Was it just barely last year?
It was just last year.
Shut the front door, guys. Like, this girl has created some of the funnest things. I didn't know it was just barely last year.
Yeah, it was just last year.
Oh my
gosh. But yeah, I've sold some paintings into galleries. I've decided this year to take up sewing. And for me, I also sing, which while it feels like its own form of creativity, even though it's different than painting, drawing, creating physical items.
Works. Yeah.
But when I was a little kid, I really struggled to. Well, I personally feel like I really struggled to communicate my feelings with people, and I was really in my head a lot and very shy.
Yeah.
And so I feel like my first way I really started communicating with people was through art. And it was pretty quickly that my art was communicating what I want, even if it wasn't at the skill level I wanted, even if it was still kind of like the stick figure, blobbish.
I mean, you were a child, right?
Yeah,
but
exactly.
But
you know, I felt like people were understanding me a little bit more. Yeah. And then I got really into drawing anime for a little while in middle school, like every artist does.
That's so awesome.
And which helped me actually learn better proportions and it started helping me kind of like craft those things. Then in high school, I kind of lost it a little while until I took a drawing class my senior year, and I had an amazing art teacher.
That's awesome.
And she inspired me and encouraged me to take more art classes, so I switched into AP art halfway through my senior year, which was a mistake, but it was a lot of work.
But did it make you happy, though?
Did it, you know? Yeah. Just kidding. No, it definitely did. And then I took painting and drawing classes in college with a wonderful artist named J.D. Parrish. Highly recommend looking him up. He has some wonderful works. So yeah, I have taken some classes, mostly for drawing and painting, not necessarily for crochet or sewing. I always recommend that one of the best things you can do, though, is YouTube. YouTube University.
I feel like especially a lot of the like creative things to like start getting advice, learning how to do some basic patterns and stuff, especially with like sewing or things like that. Like that is very helpful.
It's so helpful.
You know, because it's one thing to have like the pattern and the instructions, and they'll tell you to do this stuff and, you know, pleat it and then get your backing and then do that.
But what really is an understitch?
Like, what the hell is this? Like,
it's so true. Yeah.
And
Google's great.
There's little YouTube videos and little walkthroughs that can teach you some of those like basics and get you started in so many areas of like the creative world, which I just love. Like, I can't thank people like that enough, you know. I've definitely used like tutorials and WikiHow to like figure things out as you go along. Yeah. You know?
And creative people are so helpful. We all want to talk about our work and talk about how to do things, and so a lot of people are willing to talk to you about it or willing to point you in the right direction. It's amazing.
To give some fun advice or like be like, do not do this because it was the worst, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
exactly.
I love the like blending of experience that you've had.
Thank you.
You could like pull from like the classes and everything. That's awesome.
Thank you.
I am going to roll this dice. We were just like chugging through these questions.
I've never been so excited to answer questions in my life.
Oh, look at that. 15.
15.
Dang. Just like all right in the middle. Art does what art wants.
That is so true. Oh my goodness.
Tell me about a project that started as one thing and became something completely different.
That's a good question.
I'll answer this and I want you to answer this.
Sure.
Too.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, I feel like I have multiple examples. Like, and I'm sure you feel this way too. Like, drawing and painting. Like, you have an idea of, like, this is the image, this is what it's going to be. I feel like a lot of times my drawing or painting, like, that visual medium, there are just some days where it just is, like, doing its own thing.
That's so true.
Yeah, it is just doing its own thing. So I can't even, like, pick one specific example of, like, oh, this specific piece was just no, like, there's so many multiples. Like, I can think of some where it's like, this is what I wanted to draw, this is what I sketched, this is what I got. But, like, more often than not, I feel like you start out and then it just gets...
becomes what it wants
tentacles
to become.
And starts crawling around, and you're like, what happened to my watercolor? I don't know. You know?
I love that. Yeah, it's so true.
Yeah, so as far as that goes, like, multiples. I'm trying to think of, like, other things. I feel like a lot of my... like, sculpture attempts were attempts, and they just kind of became what they became due to my lack of skill. But I still had fun.
Yeah.
Like, along the way, so there is that. In my, like, writing, there's definitely examples of that, too, where it's, like, I was started out with... Yeah. Like, I wanted to write this story.
Writing is definitely one of those things where the characters... I sometimes, if it's, depending on what kind of story it is, sometimes I feel like they take on a life of their own. Yes. And they start making decisions you don't want them to make.
No, this is a real thing.
It's a real,
I've had Sonnen on this podcast before. She's great. She's a published author. She's amazing.
Wow,
I
that's
freaking
so
love
cool.
her. Yeah,
that's
look at her books. They're wonderful. But we've had this exact discussion before, just chatting, of how, like, well, you'll have a character that just... Like, I have a character who was, like, I needed a name as a fill-in for, like, oh, this person's having this conversation with this extra, right? It's basically an extra in the movie that's happening in my brain, right? And so this person needed a name, so they got a name.
Yep.
And that's how they started, and that's all they were supposed to be.
And then they grew, and they enchant you, and they pull at your heartstrings, or they infuriate you, and you need to tell their story.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, great, well, everything can't be about you in this setting, but, like, now, like, this fully, it was just a name on a page that was never supposed to have any backstory, nothing, is, like... the core of essentially, like, this whole string of, like, novels that I've done.
That's so cool.
And it's ridiculous. I never intended for that to happen. I don't know where this person came from. I don't know where they came from.
It's like, I don't think you were inside me. You came from somewhere else.
No, legitimately. Like,
you were not supposed to be born.
Art just does what art wants to do. And I feel that way more in writing. I feel like just because I'm more immersed in that as a creative art than others. But, like,
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's so cool. Yeah. Okay. So thinking about a few of my projects, I took a 3D design class in college. It was in 2016, early 2016, maybe it was 2015. So we were getting close to an election year, and I was taking this 3D design class. And, you know, there were several projects in that class where I kind of felt like the project took on a life of its own, and it was leading me in directions. Yeah. And there are a couple projects that came to mind. The first one, our 3D design teacher was having us create building structures, and then we did this typical thing where it has to hold a certain amount of load, otherwise you don't get a good grade.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
And but then he also wanted us to incorporate some artistic abilities into it.
Yeah,
and
like, don't just make a tower of square rectangular, like, cardboard things.
Exactly, yeah.
Like, just because it has good engineering, like, this is a artistic endeavor, make it pretty.
Yeah, and then he limited us, which also just by the way, I think if you're trying to exercise more creativity in your art and you're struggling to figure out how, give yourself a project and limit what you're allowed to use. Limit your color palette. Limit. One of my favorite things is to draw things with only one line, and it will stretch you in ways you didn't think possible, and you'll be able to create really interesting pieces. And it's a good exercise.
Yeah.
And so for this one, we could only use cardboard pieces of a fairly small size. There was a certain amount of, I think, square centimeters that we were allowed to use for it. And I am not an engineer. I'm not a builder.
Yeah.
And so I created several triangle bases that I essentially stacked on top of each other. And then I just shoved some cardboard here and there to make it so things wouldn't wiggle. Yeah. And there was one piece of cardboard on there that had the word stable on it or something along those lines. It's stable, and my art teacher came up and he said, wow, I love that you chose a piece of cardboard that just randomly had this word stable on it. And he said, that's so clever. I love that you did that. I'm like, oh yeah, I didn't know that was going on. I didn't notice.
Here's the thing.
Yep.
You gotta own stuff like that. You
Yeah.
gotta own stuff like that. Especially for like a class, you have to like do the hair toss and be like, oh yes, I saw it and it called to me and I just knew.
Exactly.
And it helped me form my entire project. Thank you for noticing.
Exactly. And,
Like,
and he told me
do.
that exact same thing.
Did he really?
I mean, with a little less zest, a little less pizzazz.
I'm
but he said, you know what?
Really cool.
If somebody points something out in your artwork, just pretend it was on purpose.
Yeah.
And just sell it. And I said,
yeah.
Slay. Okay.
I mean, like, I feel like that's sound advice with almost anything that you're doing, like, in your personal life. Like,
yeah, exactly.
I love that.
And so later on in the year, same class, and this is so interesting. So he asked us to make. He was very openly a Democrat in the class, and he was really worried about a certain someone being elected, right?
Yeah.
And so he said we should make. I'm gonna have you guys make political survival kits, and you can choose any.
This is an interesting teacher.
You know, somebody probably should have reported him, but
that's just so interesting.
It was really interesting, and he let us know we could choose any political person, that we dislike and make a political survival kit if they got elected, or kind of any political like thing that could happen, just a survival kit. Yeah. And so I wanted a good grade, and I wasn't. I will be very open and honest, saying that I wasn't sure who I was going to vote for in that election. I don't necessarily feel like what I did for this project
was morally correct.
No. I don't feel like it was morally incorrect. What I'm saying is that, like,
it didn't necessarily reflect your beliefs at the time.
At the time. Well,
but, like, I mean, he was giving you this project and he was open about his own political beliefs. So he was kind of handing you an open door of, like, hey, there's a new rule that says you can't, like, kiss up.
Yeah. There's no. Well, okay. So, like, how do I put this? Because let's see.
You can be
Let
blunt.
me think about how I want to put this.
Okay.
I personally am not a Trump supporter. I don't necessarily...
It's fine.
But, you know, I knew no matter what, I had to... I had to appeal to my teacher.
Yes.
So,
Yes, of course.
So,
of course.
What I did is I knew that I would be creating a Trump survival kit. And,
awesome.
I had a plan that my teacher shot down, and then I came up with another plan that was going to take some time, and
you just have to say it, babe.
I know. And then one day I go into class, and I'm ready to start working on my project. I think maybe I had missed a class, something along those lines. Okay. I can't quite sure how I got so off on the timeline.
Yeah.
So I brought my supplies in, and I had a bucket of white paint and a paintbrush and then some blue painter's tape and some blank paper.
Okay.
That's all I had with me to start to work on this project.
Yeah.
And I get in, I sit down, and the teacher said, okay, we're presenting our political survival kits today.
Presenting.
I was so off. I was like 2 weeks off on the timeline.
Oh no.
And I said,
I mean, that's a nightmare no matter what class you're in.
Yeah,
that is
absolutely.
literally like literally a nightmare that people have had where you get to class and you're like, oh, hey, yeah, that project you were supposed to do, it's due now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, did you die?
No, I nailed it. I grabbed the blank piece of paper and I wrote Trump Survival Kit. And then I taped it on the white can of paint with the blue painter's tape. And I put the paintbrush on top. And then it was my turn to present. And I stood up and I said, this is my Trump Survival Kit. And now, for this to make sense, you have to know a little bit of background about my family. I grew up, my family is LDS, and we are a big believer in food storage. And oftentimes, food storage will be in these big white gallon bins.
That's
and
true.
You will just tape on. It doesn't have to be pretty. Sometimes it's just a Sharpie straight on the can. Sometimes it's just taped on paper. You just put on what it is and you leave it there.
Stick it in the garage. And 87 years later, you'll probably eat it.
Yep. And so this is what it would look like in my family's in like my storage, family's storage like unit, emergency storage. And I chose white paint and a paintbrush because the only way you can justify what he's doing is if you whitewash history.
Oh my gosh.
Now,
that's so good.
My teacher loved it.
Yeah.
And I was one of the last people to go. He loved it so much that he asked everybody to give me a round of applause when nobody else clapped for anyone else. And I know that sounds like a really cheesy internet story, but it did happen, and it was one of the funniest things.
Oh my gosh.
Especially because at the time, I was still forming my political beliefs.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how I...
children back then.
Yeah.
We didn't know what was going on.
I was what, 20? 19, 20, somewhere around there.
You couldn't drink yet.
I couldn't drink yet.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, Hannah.
But, I knew I was going to pass I knew I had to pass this class.
You had to pass.
And
it was emergency situation. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Thank you. But yeah, and really it was one of those things where the art project, it had to write itself because I didn't know what to do.
That was improv.
Yeah.
That was improv. I love it so much. Holy crap. Holy crap.
Yep.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
That art it became exactly what it needed to become.
It did.
It's like a superhero.
That's so funny. It was very it did a really good job foreshadowing where I would end up politically that I did not know back then. I was not, once again, still forming political beliefs at that age.
But dang,
But I nailed the class.
You did.
My teacher loved me.
I
thought it was amazing.
I bet he was like, this girl is freaking a comedy genius, and also, this is so amazing.
What can I say? Put me in a gallery.
Also, though, he did kind of, he made it kind of
wrote
clear.
The project. He told us who to choose if you wanted to get a good grade.
I mean,
for sure.
Yeah. As if that was going to really change anybody's political beliefs. But, honestly, if any professor does that at all, whether it's politics or something about history, they really, really like Joan of Arc, and you're in history, you better write about Joan of Arc.
Yeah, you have to cater to the teacher.
Yeah,
you have to cater to the teacher.
Is bad, right, in many aspects. But if they just hand it to you,
you got to take the wins as they come.
Yeah, you gotta work that system. Dang.
Yep.
I think it's your turn to roll the dice.
Okay.
That was so good.
That was, I felt 7 layers of hell.
That was
telling
amazing.
That story.
It was so good.
Okay.
Guys, you can't come for Hannah because that was such a good story. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's just the tea.
It's just the tea. 16. Moving on.
Look at us. Oh, this is fun. This is actually perfect because we were kind of just talking about your classes and stuff.
Yeah.
Do you have a mentor or someone you looked up to that helped you get started in the art?
In the art. Oh, my goodness. Katie, I'm going to cry.
Wow. Emotional roller coaster over here.
So this is, I have to take the opportunity to speak about her because She passed away a couple weeks ago.
Hannah!
But
Hannah!
I've had so many people who've helped me in the arts. This particular teacher helped me as far as creative performing goes, and acting and theater. And I talked about when sharing my story of learning how to draw and it being my first means of communication. Wow, we are going through so many emotions tonight, friends.
This is beautiful.
Thank you. But Miss Jenks was my 8th grade teacher, my 8th grade theater teacher, and I went into her class, a pretty shy, awkward 8th grader who had a really hard time talking to people and making friends, and was, for the most part, fairly shy. Oh, I'm going to be crying all the way through this. And
it's okay.
Whew, and the first couple days of class, she talked about being brave and being big and putting yourself out there and taking risks. And so the first sketches that we did in the class for this, once again, 8th grade theater class, I decided that I was going to listen to her advice and use big energy and really go all the way out for the sketch. And it was awkward. Oh, yeah. I don't think anybody laughed. It was pretty uncomfortable. Yeah. But my theater teacher said, "All right, Fizzy," which was my theater nickname, Fizzy. Aww. "All right, Fizzy, great job. I love the energy." And it was enough for me to keep trying. To keep going. And then it really helped me open me up to making new friends and making friends with people I normally would have been too intimidated by to be friends with. And then I took a couple classes with her, and she always just communicated. Oh, I'm just going to start crying more. But she always made me feel important and loved. And like I could talk to anyone and be friends with anyone. And that's not how I had viewed myself up to that point. And truthfully, if it wasn't for her, I don't know if I would have been able to hold down a job in adulthood or been brave enough to continue performing or brave enough to talk to people about my art or post it on social media. It was her appreciating my creative abilities through theater that pushed me to do creative things everywhere and being big and bold about it. Yeah. She passed away. Oh my god. And I was able to go to her funeral. So I love that we get to talk about her. Yeah. I love that too. You know, there's been a lot of mentors I've had. So many. Melissa Gallo has been amazing for me. She was I met her around 2016, 2017, and she was able to teach me so much about art and about marketing art. Once again, J.D. Parrish was an amazing art teacher I've had, and he really reminded me that, you know, talent isn't everything, and you need to keep working at it, which was so helpful. And one of his big pieces of advice that he always told us was, become the monster that you are. Ooh. And don't try to, right? It's amazing. Yeah. And don't try to fit your art into something. Let your art become what it's going to become. Yeah. And he really talked about how oftentimes in art, your style is developed naturally by muscle memory, by the techniques you use. You don't have to force your style. Just let it come naturally, and it will start to show in all your artwork. And I think that's really what made it so my art started to be able to be marketable, and I was able to sell pieces. And I think, and so those people are probably the creative mentors who have helped me the most, helped me grow the most, and I'm so incredibly grateful for them. They've done so much for me, just so much.
Thank you so much for sharing. That was so beautiful. Like, I had no idea where this was gonna go, like, oh my gosh. I just love that so much. Like, and what a testament to, like, unsung heroes. Like, mentors can be so life-changing for so many people. you're gonna get me crying too.
Yeah.
Like
cry, Katie.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah, and
it's so beautiful what you can do for each other.
It's true. Yeah. Once again, people are inspiring.
Yeah, they are.
And oftentimes it just takes one little moment, one little phrase, and you can unexpectedly change somebody's life. And it's happened to me so many times. And I feel so grateful for the people I've been able to meet. And it's phenomenal.
To be able to be influenced by, I think we undercut so much of our own influence because, I think if you would ask, your 8th grade art teacher, do you feel like you're changing these kids' lives and that you're, forming a foundation that they're going to live on for the rest of their lives? She would have probably been not, I'm teaching them what I'm teaching them, right? But, she was there when you needed her and gave you the tools that you needed, not just in your cute little dorky awkward
but real life skills.
Grade.
Yeah,
that's
amazing.
Amazing. That's
and amazing. I didn't mention this, but she really stretched into all areas of my life. She really became a mentor, and she was a person who I'd go back to the school to visit, and who goes back to visit a middle school, right? But
I know, seriously.
She was worth it, right?
Oh my gosh.
And I really struggled academically in school at that age. I had a hard time turning in assignments, and the school started a program where if you had late assignments, if you weren't getting things done, all your teachers would meet, and then one of them would meet with you and talk to you about it. And so I knew that was rolled out. Yeah. And she was a teacher who was selected to talk to me about my missing assignments, and all she said was something about it. It was just one comment while passing me in the hall, in the school, just passing me down the hallway, saying, "Hey, well, why don't you get all those assignments in, Hannah?" And that was all it took. And it was a little bit easier for a few weeks after that to get all my assignments in, because I wanted to make Miss Jenks proud of me, and I knew she actually really cared. Yeah,
that's beautiful. That's so beautiful.
She was amazing.
Gosh, it just makes me so happy because I don't think, my mom was a teacher for 6-year-old children, right? tiny children who probably won't remember who she is, but I know if I were to ask her, do you feel like you're really making a difference in these kids' lives and that they're gonna remember you and that you've formed things, she taught them how to read and how to do basic math and stuff, the things that you learn in 1st grade. Yeah. So, yes, but, I don't think people in those positions really think of just how powerful those mentorships...
Those moments can be.
And those little moments. And, parents, yes, have a lot of that influence, but it's almost more meaningful and special when it's really this other person that just kind of is in your life, maybe because they're a teacher, maybe they're a coworker, maybe they're a friend, maybe they're your friend's uncle who does the thing that you're interested in learning about. But we can never underestimate the power and the influence that we can have for good in other people's lives.
Absolutely.
And that's just so beautiful. I had no idea about any of that. You're one of my favorite people. You're one of my great friends. And I'm just so glad for the influence that she had in your life, because maybe we never would have met and I would have had a hole.
Oh, okay.
A hole that needed to be filled in my little heart. That's so beautiful. That's so beautiful. Man, the arts just... Yeah. They can change lives. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, thanks for asking. Thank you, Dice.
We'll do one more question.
Let's do it.
See where this absolute roller coaster of an episode goes. Seven?
Seven's my favorite number. I'm glad we're ending on that. That's pretty
number. Good. Oh, this is fun. Is there something you've never attempted? Or maybe you started it and then stopped? What was it?
Never attempted. As far as creativity goes, as far as anything goes. Okay, creativity.
I did, I guess, and this kind of bums me out a little bit. I had to take one more art credit or whatever in my senior year of high school. Mm-hmm. And I was like, what do I do? I don't even know. I want to do something I've never, ever done before and will probably never do again. Mm-hmm. So I ended up doing pottery.
Pottery is so hard.
It is way
Nobody
hard.
tells you about that.
It is way hard, but I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Like, the stuff I made was hot trash. But, like...
You have to have strong hands, which I don't have.
You do. You have to have very strong hands. Yeah. You have to be really patient. Like, the whole thing. And, like, you could have worked really hard on this piece and then it fully just explodes. Like, if something goes wrong. Valid. It's chemistry and just heartbreak is pottery. But I loved it a lot. I really, really liked it. I did it for a semester. My teacher was... I feel like overly complimentary and just loved my work. She loved my work, and I feel like there's absolutely no reason for her to have loved any of the pieces that I made. I had no idea what I was doing. I was just doing what I was told, and just like, okay, well, it became this, and it's not a blobby snake worm, so... it's a cup or whatever. Yeah. But yeah, she loved my pieces, and we had, the little showcase thing that we had to do at the end of the class. And yeah, like, I did really well in the class, not because I was good, but I just tried. And I loved it. I had a lot of fun. Yeah. And then I've never done pottery since. I haven't really had access to.
Yeah, it's one where it's hard to get access to what you need.
Yeah, like, it's like, okay, you could
it's not something you can just throw in the middle of your living room.
No. Yeah. You could, like, buy a big old block of pottery clay, but, like, okay, are you gonna get a throwing wheel?
Yep.
Or are you
Where are you gonna cook it?
Yeah.
How are you gonna glaze it?
Your oven doesn't get hot enough. Yep. Like, so you've gotta have access to a kiln. Mm-hmm. And then glazes. Like, where are you gonna keep all of this stuff? Yeah. So, like, outside of high school and, like, in college, I probably could have taken, like, additional pottery classes and continued, but I was focused on my STEM. Right? That's the only reason why I was going to college. So I am bummed out that I haven't really been able to go back to doing pottery. It was a blast.
I hope you get the chance. We should take a pottery class together.
That would be so fun.
That'd be so fun.
My mom was so cute because I got really into pottery in my senior year of high school, and my mom was a first grade teacher, and she's like, you know what? We have a kiln at my school. I should get my kids, my little first graders, and have them do pottery. And so she did, and she became, like, the person at the school, and she would have some of the other grades come in for art time and make pottery. That's so cool. And, like, a couple of years ago, they built a whole new school, and specifically the principal was like, please don't retire yet. I'm getting you a new kiln. So she stayed.
That's so cool.
She stayed because she was like, well, I really want to use that new kiln. Like, I love that woman for so many reasons, but and maybe I could have, like, dabbled on the side and used my mom's kiln, but I was in school. I was super busy.
Sure.
So I stopped doing pottery. I'm not good at... I don't care. Like, sorry.
Pottery is so hard.
If you're listening, I was not good at pottery. I don't know why you guys thought I was so good, but I was really not. But it was fun. It was really fun.
That is fun.
I had done, like, sculpting and stuff before, but it's so different.
That's another reason to, try even if you don't know what you're doing, is that the trying and the failing can be incredibly fun and satisfying as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure.
100%.
Yeah.
What about you? Like, something you've just never, ever even tried?
Never, ever even tried. I mean, there's not a lot at this point.
Yeah.
I haven't done a whole lot of wood carving.
I think I carved a stick once.
I think I've carved a bar of soap, and I've whittled a stick.
Okay, yeah, I've carved a bar of soap.
I don't know if that really counts. I haven't ever tried, but I would really love to try and learn how to carve into marble.
Ooh,
it seems something that is bigger than life that I could never learn, but that's why it fascinates me.
You probably want to start with, like, wood, because it's a little less... like unforgiving.
Yeah.
If you mess it up.
It's a little easier
a
to
little bit easier to work with, and if you screw
chop
it
stuff
up, you're
off.
like,
Yeah, exactly. And then I did pick up mosaics for a really short period of time, and I didn't finish the piece that I had started, so I feel like that can be considered an abandoned one. I still have all the material to make mosaics.
Could finish it,
but I don't know when I ever really would. It's kind of one of those. That's a big thing too. Yeah. But I'd love to do stained glass at some point. Stained glass is amazing.
Cool. Yeah. Glasswork. I've always been fascinated with like glass work or like blown glass or things like that. Just so cool. Yeah. I'm deathly afraid of like hot things and being burned. So I don't think I could ever do like glass work, but it would be cool.
Well, so I did a glass blowing class. I'm saying that with little quotation
marks around it.
But Thanksgiving Point in here in Utah, they do glass blowing classes where all you do is really hold the tongs and shape it. They do all the really scary parts.
The part where you have to go to this flaming mouth to like the void and like plunge your life into there and pray.
Exactly. They do that part, and they watch you. They tell you when to spin the little sticky thing. And I've done that, and
no idea.
It's not too scary. It's definitely doable. So if you're ready to attempt it,
I would feel like $1 million if I like had a thing, even if it was like one of those dorky little pendant necklaces or something. I'd be like, I freaking made this in like the fiery furnace.
Yes.
Like,
well, and here's the thing: cool. if that excites you and it's something that is a little bit scary but exciting, do it.
Oh gosh. Okay, it all just comes back around to the way we started this episode.
Yeah,
you just need to
jump on in. Yeah, I guess I guess I have a question I have to ask you since we're talking about creativity.
Oh no.
What's your newest passion project, creative endeavor that you're working on?
I mean, I guess like cuz right now with just like work and things, I'm limited on where I can put my energy and my time. So I haven't picked up necessarily anything that I haven't dabbled in before, right? Like,
hey, it doesn't have to be new. It can just be your most current thing.
So I'm currently working on 2 cosplays for this year.
That's so cool. What are you cosplaying?
I'm
if you don't want to like give spoilers.
I usually
if it needs to be a surprise, I understand. Okay.
I do have my own little Instagram that I never post to, guys, so it's pointless for you to follow me. But I got it to post my cosplays.
Yeah.
You know, because I go to like Ren fairs or cons or FanX, you know, and everybody would be like, "Oh my gosh, let's get pictures together," which is so fun. I love getting pictures like with people, with other cosplayers, so fun. But everybody would always be like, "Oh, I want to follow you. What's your Instagram?" And I was the person who was like, I just don't. Yep. So I got one specifically for that. But I hardly ever post. But I'm working on 2 cosplays right now. I actually just got some 3D files that I'm gonna have one of my friends print for me.
Oh, cool.
For some of the like accents and stuff.
That's really cool.
And I just got the patterns. I need to start paying attention to sales because I need to buy fabric. I'm doing a thing that I hate, which is going to be sewing. Like,
I've picked up sewing and it's really fun. Maybe we just need to do a sewing day together.
We probably do. It's not a complicated, like the one that I am sewing, because usually the way I cosplay is like to make only things that I know I can solidly make and buy as much as possible for it as inexpensively as possible.
Yeah.
And if I just cannot find it anywhere, then I make it, right?
Yeah.
And so for one of the cosplays, can pretty much buy everything except for like a few of the like accent pieces, but it's like, that's easy, I can make those. For the other one, like a majority of it, I need to sew this. It's like, she has like a almost like a corset that flares out into a high-low skirt.
Oh,
and I looked all over to find something that I could be like, okay, this works. There's just not something, like, there's plenty of other cosplays that I've done where it's like, I can make this work, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I could tweak it just a little bit, or do the color a little different, or, you know, trim it and hem it, and then it, boom. But this, it's like, no, the look is too specific.
Yeah.
And I would be dissatisfied with the cosplay
if it was
different,
yeah.
if it was too different. So, I got a great pattern, through a creator online who's thankfully familiar with the character, and like made a whole pattern to make this piece. Mm-hmm. And now I'm gonna have to sew it.
That's so real. And corsets they're difficult.
It's like a corset-ish, mm-hmm. like corset mm-hmm. adjacent. Mm-hmm. If it was a true corset, I'd be like, nope, we're buying that, because I could buy it for cheaper and just make it work. So it's corset like adjacent. It's like a bodice and a skirt. But I cannot sew.
Well, I've seen some of the things you've done, so I know that's not true. I can. It's like how, like, I know how to read music. I can play the piano. Just because I can do that thing doesn't mean I can do it well. It's the t-shirt situation again, where it's I don't know what I'm doing. So I can read the instructions. I can mm-hmm. do the weird, like, reverse stitches, or make the, like, buttonhole stitch, and like mm-hmm. all of that. I theoretically can do it.
On paper, yes.
Uh-huh.
We'll see how this goes. I am making it, and I'm starting plenty in advance. Mm-hmm. My first con that I'm going to is in April. So, yeah.
That's awesome. I love it.
On.
Well, I can't wait to see what you come up with.
Oh, thank you.
It's going to be fun. Well,
did you have something you wanted to share? With something that you're working on right now?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I actually, speaking of sewing, I decided towards the end of last year that 2024, I am going to stop buying new clothes and will only be sewing my clothes for the full year.
Girl.
And I want to preface this with saying that I have sewn like little drawstring bags in middle school before.
Okay, so maybe I could help you out. You could help to motivate me, but I could definitely help you out.
But I've made a dress, and I've made a cloak, and the cloak turned out pretty well, and I've made a skirt.
Are easy. Skirts are easy. You're starting out right.
I made a skirt that is wearable, so I'm pretty proud of it. But my whole thing is, you know, the quality of clothing is going down. Mm-hmm. I love being creative, but I have a limited budget for both my creativity and my wardrobe. Mm-hmm. But I can combine those budgets and have more of a budget and do both. And not only that, but because quality of clothing has gone downhill so much, I feel like it should probably only take me a couple of months to get to the point that fast fashion's at.
I mean,
and then anything after that,
really true. Anything after that is just a win-win.
Is just a win-win.
Like, everything you make, you're like, I chose this. I wanted this.
Exactly.
This is the pattern.
I can choose the color. I can choose the pattern.
Cut,
and I have a body type that can be kind of difficult to dress. And so being able to have that option of sewing it myself, that's pretty exciting. So we're learning a lot of new skills. It does feel really ambitious, but I'm already having a lot of fun.
That's good.
I've made a few pieces, and since I already started crocheting last year, I see how it's kind of translating, and I have some crocheted pieces now.
That's awesome.
So it's pretty fun.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
That's going to be so fun. I'm really excited to see what you make.
I'm excited to see what you make. We got to do a sewing day.
Sure. There's a long weekend coming up, I think. That might be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, motivate me to go out and buy fabric.
Yeah. Oh, fabric. So fun, so expensive.
It's true. Gotta hit those sales.
Sure.
Well, my gosh, what an amazing episode this has been.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I feel like we went on a real journey together.
We did. I really appreciate it.
We felt all the emotions, had all the feelings.
Yes. Thank you guys so much for joining us. This is all we have time for, but we will talk at you later.